Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I'm Mayor Chasity Wells-Armstrong, and this is Alderman Chris Curtis from the 6th Ward, and we will be discussing our proposal to reduce property taxes. Bear with us, it's been a long week. I think this is our 6th presentation. So the actual slideshow is about 20 minutes, and then we'll take some questions. What brought us here today is that all of us who serve in city government recognize the fact that our property tax rate is high, and it's an issue for a lot of the residents who live here. So as a council, we have all come together. We've had meetings over the last several months. I want to thank our comptroller who's here tonight, Elizabeth Kugel. Each of the city council members have had an opportunity to meet with me and Elizabeth, also consult with our corporate counsel, Pat Power, to provide some ideas and recommendations to address this issue. So at this time, I want to thank the leadership of Alderman Dennis Barron, who's here from the 6th Ward. He chairs our budget committee. There's several aldermen here tonight. Alderman O'Brien from the 2nd Ward, Alderman Osinga from the 3rd Ward, Alderman Crawford from the 3rd Ward. I believe that's Alderman Tall in the back, and Alderwoman Carmen Lewis from the 5th Ward as well. She's circulating the sign-in sheet. So we want to just thank everybody for being here, and we'll go ahead and get the presentation started. So I'll turn it over to Alderman Curtis.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. What we want to do over the next 20 minutes is we want to show you, hopefully this presentation here is going to answer all your questions. So at the end, as the Mayor mentioned at the end, we'll take questions, comments, but I think if you bear with us here, we've properly thought out most of the questions that people have, and we'll be able to help you tonight with that. So our goal is, how do we give back to the residents that own property in Kankakee? As the Mayor said, one of the biggest things that I hear, I'm in commercial and residential real estate, is our property taxes are out of control and they're too high and they're stifling development, growth, home purchases, things of that nature. So we've been trying to come up with ideas, and we're going to kind of go through here and show you everything. So, obviously, when property values are suppressed, you're going to have a higher tax rate. And if we can get tax rates down, property values rise. It's basically a systematic formula that's going to work each way. So our goal is to be working on the green lines, to increase our economic development and investment within the city, and to get new residents to consider staying in the city of Kankakee and buying homes in this Kankakee. So we want to reduce the Kankakee tax rate. We want to increase our EAV. EAV is equalized assessed value. Basically, it's our property values. For the first time in probably about 10 years, our EAV increased this year. We're at about $204 million. To kind of give you some perspective, before the bubble burst in 2008, our EAV for City of Kankakee was about $290 million. So if you just kind of use some round numbers, we lost $90 million over the last 10 years because of the bubble burst and things. That's roughly about $3 million of dollars to the City of Kankakee. That's a lot of money. And so we got to get our EAVs back up to where we were before so we can keep our tax rates down for you. We want to increase home ownership, and we want to diversify the city's revenue sources. Our goal here is to not be so heavily on property owners and residents of the City of Kankakee. In the past, we've had to make some difficult decisions with the vehicle sticker, the public safety tax. That's both ordinances that none of the aldermen wanted to do, but we had to make sure that we had a balanced budget, and that affected everyone that lives in the City of Kankakee. Hopefully this will have some outside people contributing to our revenue source. So this slide here is very interesting because this compares us to our neighbors. Currently, the City of Kankakee has on average about a 17.25% tax rate. Some areas are a little lower, some areas are a little higher. But if you look at Bradley, they're at 9%, Bourbonnais just under 9%, and Manteno's just over 10%. To me, this is a very troubling picture from the standpoint of, you look at, we're almost double to our neighbors. So if you're looking to buy a home, if you're looking to do an investment, build a new building, you're going to look at our neighbors next door and think about, can I get a better return with their tax rate? I want to compare some apples to apples for you. So I compared Bradley, Bourbonnais, and Manteno with retail, industrial, and office buildings. I'm going to start with Bradley and retail. Bradley Walmart is about 217,000 square feet, paying $360,000 in real estate taxes. But to make this a true apples to apples comparison, I'm using a per square foot number. They're paying $1.65 per square foot for their 217,000 square foot building. The Walmart in Kankakee is slightly smaller at 196,000 feet, but $620,000 more importantly, the $3.16 a foot for their tax bill. Again, in Bradley, if you go back, $1.65, in Kankakee, $3.16. Basically the exact same stores. We're going to look at industrial with Mantino. At Mantino Interchange, there's a 33,000 square foot building. It's the former Bimba manufacturing facility. Sits on 5 acres and has a tax rate of $1 a square foot. At Eastgate Industrial Park, east of town, again at an interchange, a 32,000 square foot building on a little less land, and their taxes are $2.12, more than double for an industrial building. Again, we're trying to attract industry, things of that nature. But when you look at a tax bill like that, it's very difficult to compete. In an office building, on Heritage Drive, 2-story office building, about 15,000 square feet, $1.25 a square foot for their taxes. And in downtown Kankakee, another 2-story office building, less land but larger building. But when you look at the per square foot, $3.10 a square foot. I do want to say one quick thing here. You'll see the tax rate's at 19. Downtown Kankakee self-assesses the property owners, self-assess themselves 2%, and that goes to the Kankakee Development Corporation, which is KDC. It allows the things like the sidewalk dining, the lighting, the farmer's market, things that happen at the depot. So that 19 tax rate's a little higher than most people see in Kankakee, but even if you drop it down to 17, it'd be closer to about $2.94 a foot. It's still a lot higher than what you see for an office building in Bourbonnais. I'm going to let the mayor take over here and talk a few things here.
Okay, so just give me some perspective to our pension issue. We know that we have a heavy burden when it comes to our fire and police pensions. For several years, many years ago, the pension obligations were not properly paid. So for example, if you charge on your credit card and you only pay the minimum amount, you know it's going to take you years and years to pay it off, and interest just keeps accumulating. And that's a similar situation to what we've had. Eventually, I believe it was the fire department, those employees took the city of Kankakee to court. They sued the city because they wanted to make sure that their pensions were protected. We have an obligation to do that. It's the right thing to do. They are our first responders. They provide critical services for the community, and their pensions should be there. So they took that step to take us to court, the city to court, and now we are required by Illinois law to pay the amount that the actuary determines for us to pay every year. And I just want to say that, you know, this is something that is not going to go away. When we did our budget for this year, it increased, the pension obligation increased $503,000. So this is something that is not going to go away, and we have to figure out a way to address this.
As a mayor, you saw our pensions levy there, and that's on the back. That's on your, right now, the property tax bill pays for that. So that's on the back of property owners in Kankakee. Our pension has tripled in the last 10 years. In 2007, we levied $2.5 million for pensions. You saw this year we're going to be levying $6.1. The pension tax rate in 2007 was just under 1 or 0.9, and last year it was 3.2. So what's our solution? Our solution is to fund the pension line item with a sales tax increase and not on the property tax bill. So what we're looking to propose to do is increase the sales tax from 1.0 to the city to 3.0. We currently have a tax rate of 6.25% in the community. 5% goes to the state of Illinois, 1% goes to the city of Kankakee, and 0.25% goes to the county. Our new tax rate would be 8.25% instead of 6.25%. This would not apply to groceries, medications, and automobile sales. Basically, this is very similar to what other communities are doing. We do not want to, groceries and medications, we know a lot of people are on fixed incomes, seniors, things of that nature. These are needs that people have to have, and we don't want to add an extra burden onto them. We also did it with automobile sales because, again, very similar where other cities are increasing their sales tax rate, they exempt them out there. That's a very large purchase. That's something that we don't want to burden our residents with. So this would increase 66% of our sales tax to the city of Kankakee. And on Monday, this coming Monday, we're going to have a special meeting at the city council. And at that time, we would have an ordinance in place that would mandate that the 2/3 collected of our sales tax, 100% of this extra revenue would be dedicated to police and fire pension line item. I know there's a lot of talk in the community that, what are they gonna do with all this excess money? This is going to go to the police and fire pension line item. This is not really any extra money for the city. What it is, it's extra money for the city to pay those obligations that we have and also give real profit relief to our residents.
So we just wanted to give you a snapshot of what some of the other municipalities are doing. Currently, Kankakee is at 6.25%. So as you can see, when you compare us with other municipalities, we are the lowest. Bloomington is at 8.75, Peoria 9%, Champaign 9%, Springfield 8.5, Decatur 9.25, Orland Park 9.75, Danville 9.25, and Naperville 7.75. And about a week and a half ago or so, Naperville did make another increase. So even going up to 8.25%, we're still generally the lowest in the state when you compare us to other municipalities.
So currently in our fiscal year budget, we're bringing in a little over 3.7 million in sales tax. That money is still, that's part of that 1% we're collecting, and that still needs to stay there because we do use that money for salaries, things in the city, snow plowing, all the things that it takes to run the city. So that 3.7 million, that 1% we're bringing in is still going to stay in the general operating fund. By increasing our sales tax by 2%, we projected it could generate as much as $7.44 million of excess revenue, extra revenue. But as we do that, you've noticed that's about 1.3 million more than it's required for this fiscal year. You remember earlier we said we're going to need 6.1 and we're going to bring in about 7.4. But there's a few things we need to take into account. Currently, Ultra Foods is vacant. They were bringing in about $200,000 for the city of Kankakee. We expect that will be backfilled, we hope this year. We hope to get another grocery in there or something of that nature. But we're trying to be conservative. Let's just assume that stays vacant for another year. We need to not count on that $200,000 at this point. The next part I'm going to let the mayor talk about real quick with the state of Illinois and what they charge for us to do this.
Yes, the state of Illinois finds a way to charge us more money. So they have assessed a 2% fee of any additional sales tax revenue, which would equate to about $150,000. The Illinois Municipal League is the organization in the state that's the advocacy arm for municipalities. And currently, this is on the policy agenda for this year to reduce that 2% fee down to 1%. However, as a council, as a governing body, we want to be fiscally conservative, and if that doesn't happen, we are taking into account the 2% fee. We also have, trying to give him a break, we also have sales tax sharing agreements. As you know, many years ago, we were able to keep the tax rate to 6.25% because we had sales tax sharing agreements. And we have a few of them left. They are legitimate. Once the laws changed, we don't benefit from that as much anymore. But there's about $80,000 there in revenue. We have not been informed that anybody would leave, but this certainly could have an impact from going from 6.25 to 8%. So we've taken into account, again, to be fiscally conservative, that if they decide to leave, that we will potentially lose $80,000. And then also looking at the possibility of shoppers shopping elsewhere. Some people may get upset and say, I'm not shopping in Kankakee. We think that may happen at the beginning, but eventually that people will shop for convenience because they're not going to want to make the extra drive out to Bourbonnais or other places.
So taking those factors into play, we believe that there could be potentially about $800,000 surplus in the first year of sales tax revenue. And what we would do with that money, again, there would be an ordinance that mandates the steps of this. The first step is to take your real estate tax bill, and we'll get into that in a minute, and basically make that pension line item zero and fund that completely. Second part is the city of Kankakee has some liabilities on the book. The best way our comptroller explained it to me is if we levy $5.6 million for the pension, there are certain people that don't pay their tax bills each year. And maybe we only collect $5.5 million, so we're short $100,000. The city is still obligated to fund that portion to the pension, even though if we didn't collect it. So right now on our books, we have a little bit under $1 million that is owed. And so we expect that the first, after we take and fund the pension line items, we take the excess money and try to wipe those off the books. We expect that hopefully we could accomplish that within the first 2 years. That's going to help our bond ratings going forward. It's going to help everything in the city for our financial condition look better. The third part is any excess money beyond that is going to help fund the unfunded portion of our liabilities. So fire department currently is funded at about 19%, and the police is funded about 33%. Any excess money would have to be divided 50-50 between the fire and the police, but that money would go. What we hope then is hopefully by building that up a little bit, some of those actuarial numbers may start to stabilize or maybe come down, or we don't have to levy as much each year.
And the good news is the pensions do not have to be funded at 100% to be considered healthy. So we were told, I believe by Richard Sims with police, about 55% is healthy.
So we're going to give you an example, because a lot of you now want to know, what's this mean to me, and how does this affect me? So I used a house here in Riverview that has a tax bill of $5,244. It has a tax rate of 17.1%. The city's portion of that tax bill is $2,333. Remember, we can only control the city's portion. You got things like the college, the park district, the school district. Unfortunately, we can't control what they're doing, but we can control the city's portion. The pension line item is 3.279. I'm going to go forward one step here to show you something, and then we'll go back. This is a tax bill in the city of Kankakee. We have 3 line items. The first one is our general operating budget. That is the things that we need to collect for police, fire, salaries, things to run the city. The second line item, as you see right here, is the pension line item. This is what we have to collect right here on your tax bill to fund the pension line item. And the third one is the library. So these are the 3 portions of your real estate tax bill that we can control, and we're looking to eliminate this pension line item from 3.2279 to 0.00. If we do that and we go back, the new tax rate for that home, this example is 13.8 instead of 17.1. The new city's portion is $1,300 versus $2,300. That is a savings of over $1,000 annually, or nearly a 20% savings on your real estate tax bill each and every year. 43% of that savings of the city portion. But think about that, you're going to experience this in about 60 days when you get your tax bill. And if you're like me, the 2 hardest checks for me to write is my TV bill each month and my tax bill twice a year. Those are 2 that just are hard to sign, but we do what we have to. So if we can save 20% of your tax bill, you can think about what that is in your head and take 1/5 of that. Imagine writing your first installment for less money and then again in September. That's significant. So hopefully you should have in your hand a spreadsheet. And this one's a little difficult to read, but we'll use it as an example. Because you want to know, what's this mean to me? So find on there is in $25,000 increments is property values. You basically know probably what your house is worth. Figure it out on there. If it's in between 75 and 100, you're just going to have to do some minor calculations. But we have 3 exemptions that we put on there. The homestead, if you live in your house, senior, and disability. Those are the 3 most common exemptions. So we're going to use a $100,000 house. If you feel that's what your house is worth and you live there, your tax bill is probably in the range of $4,700. You'd have your new tax bill with this new sales tax increase and the ordinance that would put this into place of lowering your real estate taxes, reduce your bill down to $3,800 or a savings of just under $900, about $896. So you can go through there. If you got rental property, you'd have no exemptions. If you're a senior, you can kind of figure out where you're at. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, that is basically $500,000. I did that for business owners. If your property's worth $250,000, take half of that. If it's worth $1 million, double it. If it's worth $2 million, times it by 4. But basically, about $5,500 would be saved for every $500,000 worth of property. So if you've got somebody like, whether it's Armstrong or Wells-Armstrong or Heartland Harvest that's out at Eastgate or people like that, you know, this is hopefully going to entice them to not think about moving to another community, maybe thinking about expanding and staying right here. This gives them real property tax relief. So you can take that home with you, you can show your neighbors, but you can kind of figure out, what's this mean to me? So what's the positive and the negatives? Positive, we're going to reduce your real estate tax bill by 20%. If you have a home that's valued at $100,000, you would need to purchase annually over $50,000 worth of hard goods to lose money on this deal. That's a lot. I don't think many people are purchasing $50,000 of hard goods because this does not take into account things like your mortgage or insurance or contributions to your retirement plan or things of that nature. This is just purchases that you would do and this isn't going to take into account even groceries that you buy in the grocery store, but eating out, shoes, things of that nature. The negative, we're going to increase your sales tax rate by 2%. So what's that mean to you? Again, the average American spends about $12,665 annually on general merchandise, or about 22% of their income. This came from the 2016 Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then the next factor is Kankakee's household income is about $32,000. That would equate to spending about $7,200 annually on hard goods. Based on this, a resident in Kankakee could anticipate an increased cost of purchasing hard goods of $145 to $250 annually over 12 months. So what we're getting at is when you write that tax bill in June, it's a big check that you write. Hopefully when you're spending this extra $145 to $250 over the year, it's over 52 weeks. It doesn't hit you as hard. I'll let the mayor talk about here real quick.
So we just put some items here to compare. If you buy a cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, today's price is $2.09 with an additional cost of 4 cents once the sales tax increase takes effect. A soccer ball, $9.97 in Walmart. You'll pay an additional 17 cents in sales tax. Pair of jeans, $24.95, an additional 44 cents in sales tax. Getting into some of the larger items, such as a 48-inch screen TV for $348, that will be an additional $6.09 in sales tax. Refrigerator for $7.99, an additional $13.98. And of course, when you're looking at those bigger items, those are not replaced every year.
So what's the end net result to you as a resident of the city of Kankakee? Your sales tax increase is going to be shared by non-city residents, so it's not a 100% burden on the property owners and the residents of the city of Kankakee. The overall net savings, by the time what you're going to spend an actual sales tax increase on your purchasers and the savings on your real estate tax bill, is going to be somewhere between $200 to $900 annually if you have a home value between $50,000 and $150,000. Where you're at in that, you have to figure that out yourself. But basically, the bottom line is you're going to be saving money in the long run. And we're going to reduce your tax bill by 20%, the city's portion by 43% on property tax owners. We're going to fund that 2% increase straight to the police and fire pension line item. Again, we want to stress that this is not going to be on groceries, medication, and vehicle purchases. And the two big things that we hope to accomplish out of this, not only is savings to you as residents, but we expect that properties in the city of Kankakee are going to be more attractive for purchasers. So I'm going to look at homes. Okay, right now, you hear a lot of it, and I hear it not just people in real estate, but you hear it other people. Got these great homes. It's a beautiful home for $95,000, or it's a beautiful home for $88,000. But they see the tax bill, they say, oh my gosh, no way, I can afford the mortgage, but I can't afford the taxes. And they end up buying a home in Bradley for $95,000 or $110,000. Well, we hope that all of a sudden we're more attractive to one, hopefully purchasing homes, purchasing vacant buildings, and the ideal thing is maybe we're more attractive for even new home construction. Because if you notice, all that seems to be happening north of us and not in the city of Kankakee. The biggest reason we hear, it's not any more expensive to build a home in Kankakee as it is in Bradley, Bourbon, and Rantino. It's just more costly for the real estate taxes, and the goal of builders is to move that home as quick as possible. And we anticipate that our property values are going to increase. By having a lower real estate tax bill, your home is more attractive, or your property you own is more attractive. So, if you have a house that's worth $115,000, we would hope in the first year you may see an increase of $5,000 to $10,000 right out of the box just because you have that lower real estate tax bill. So some questions is, I don't own a property, I rent. Does this help me in any way? The answer to that is probably not as much as a property owner. That is correct. But if you've noticed in the last 10 years, rental rates for apartments or homes in Kankakee have substantially increased. Used to get a 2-bedroom for $500 to $550. It's probably closer to $750 to $800, maybe even as high as $850 now. The reason is landlords and property owners, they're in it for a business. So when the taxes are increasing substantially like they have, they're just passing that on to the renters. And so what our goal is maybe if their tax bill isn't increasing as much, maybe two things happen. One, maybe instead of that rent going from $750 to $800 or increasing $50 annually, maybe it only goes up $5 or $10. Or if they get that extra money, they haven't been able to upkeep their property like they'd like to. Maybe it's a new roof, maybe it's paint, maybe it's new windows. You know, I'm not naive to believe that they're going to take their rent and go from $800 down to $650. That's not going to happen. But if they can help increase the value of their property by fixing it up, make it more attractive for renters, and maybe stabilize that rent growth that we've seen over the last 10 years, that can be a benefit to the renters. Small business. That's a big thing. If I'm selling widgets, how's this going to affect me? Well, if you're a small business owner who owns your property and you have a building worth $150,000, you could potentially save up to $1,650 annually in real estate taxes. You would have to have a decline in sales of a little over $82,000 to lose money on this deal. So this does benefit even property owners that sell things. Additional factors with this is we hope to assist in the development and investment in the city of Kankakee. The other big factor of how we get our tax rate down is we have more construction. We need more new homes being built. We need more new businesses, whether it's industrial buildings, strip centers, things of that nature. The more that's built, that adds to our equalized assessed value and keeps your tax rate lower. And I'll let the mayor talk about some of the X things here, but this is just this is one factor that we're dealing with right now today, and I'll let the mayor talk on some other things.
Yes. Excuse me. This is one of several strategies that we've been discussing over the months, and as I'm continuing to assess our structures in the city, one of the things we want to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible with our resources. So I use my office, for example. There's a copy machine in my office that's probably 3 feet from my executive assistant. And on her desk, immediately to her left, there's another machine. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have that kind of excess, going on throughout the city and all the departments, there's some savings there that we can capture. We also spend about $150,000 every year on new police cars. Elizabeth and I, our comptroller, have been looking at some different plans to perhaps go to leasing so that we reduce our maintenance costs, because we have a lot of costs for maintenance on our vehicles. But that would reduce maintenance costs, repairs, and also give us vehicles that are more fuel efficient. The other thing, and this is going to be the hard conversations that we have to start talking about some of our benefit structures. I believe in people being paid well for the jobs that they do, but some of our benefit structures are not sustainable. And I'll give you an example. One of our sergeants from the police department, great officer, worked over 20 years, retired, fully earned his pension. But because of the way their contracts are structured, he was allowed, not just him, but the department can bank 180 sick days. He walked out with a $90,000 payout, and that is not sustainable. We have a very large police department. I believe our capacity is 70. We have about 67 on staff now, and I believe we have capacity for 50 fire. And we're about, I think, 40, Chief Shoulders here, 47. So I've been really careful. The chiefs have been great. Chief Shoulders here from Fire and Chief Dumas really watching our budgets and really being careful about, being hired at our full maximum, because when we have people that leave and we have these huge buyouts, such as the one we just had a couple months ago, that comes out of the general fund. So those are conversations that we're going to have. We want to take care of our employees and do right, but I'll give you an example. When I worked at Shapiro years ago, it was the same structure. We were paid out all our sick days. By the time I left there, I had been there right under 5 years. They started paying 50%. And Alderman Lewis, you work for the county. What do they pay, like 0.25? Yes. 0.25. So it's just not sustainable. Kankakee in the 1970s is not what Kankakee is today in 2018. And so we're going to have those conversations. So there are many strategies that we're looking at. This is the first step as we move ahead.
So the big question we've been getting here recently is why we have to act so quickly. And we've been talking about this, as the mayor had said, for several months and some things. But one of the things that just came up here recently is we have to notify the Illinois Department of Revenue by April 1st if we want to enact this. So That's why we've called for a special meeting and some different things. If we do not act on this by April 1st, the next time that we can act is October 1st. The problem is we need to get some feedback when we're getting our revenue in to make sure that everything is working out as planned. So the sales tax effect would start July 1st of this year. And this would allow us to see July, August, September, and October numbers coming in when we have to levy in December, so that we can provide the real relief to your property tax bill in 2019. As I mentioned, your tax bill is coming out in 60 days. It's not based on 2017, so we can't do anything about that tax bill. But if we don't act by April 1st, then the next soonest time we could act for your tax bill would be 2020. In this day and age, we're all very anxious. I'd love to see it happen in 60 days, but I don't want to wait till 2020 for this reduction on your tax bill. I'd rather see it 14 months from now and only be upset about writing my check to the TV instead of the tax bill also.
And I want to just mention too, for a couple years, Mayor Epstein had, in her efforts to reduce the burden on taxpayers, pulled money with of course, with the consent of the council from the reserves. And we had some lengthy discussions about that as well. I believe our reserves are at $3.4 million. And so we didn't think that it was fiscally responsible to do that, because when we go back to bond, one of the things they look at is reserves. And so when we go back to bond, if the reserves have dropped from 3 million to 2 million because we pulled $1 million out of it, that's going to hurt us and hurt our rating. And we'll end up paying more, of course, because of our rating. So we didn't think it was appropriate to do that. And that's why we're here today.
So to end this up here real quick is the end result. And what I'm going to talk to you here about here is if we do nothing, and I've said this, I feel like I've said this 20 times now, but if we just go to city council meeting twice a month, we go to our committee meetings, and we do nothing and act on nothing, our tax bill is going to go up easily about 1 point each year. We could wake up in 2020 and you're going to have a tax rate of over 20%. Now, Bradley, Bourbonnais, Manteel, their tax rates are climbing up also. But the gap will still stay very wide, which means our home values will stay suppressed. Our sales won't be as quick and often as we'd like. And hope in investment and development in the city is just not going to be there. So this is not a perfect plan. We think it's a good plan. We think it's a plan that gives real relief to the property owners in Kankakee that will raise your values of your property, will hope attract development in the city of Kankakee. And again, I said it's not perfect, but if we do nothing, then you're just going to see a higher and higher tax bill, and it'll make your TV bill look real good.
So to reiterate that, my slogan with all of this is choosing to do nothing is still choosing. And so I want to commend the council because we all have been able to come together and really have really intense discussions about this matter. And this is what we're proposing to the community, to do something, again, in an effort to reduce the property tax burden and to spur economic development in the community. Taxpayers will be protected because of the ordinance. And again, that special meeting has been called for Monday, the 26th, March 26th at 7 o'clock in the council chambers. Someone had asked me at another meeting, how are you able to do this without a referendum? The city of Kankakee is a home rule municipality, and the state law dictates who's home rule, and that's based on population. So any municipality over 25,000 is home rule, and they can draft their own ordinances, create their own laws, and that's how we're able to do this. We wanted to make sure that we could get out to the public as quickly as we can. As Alderman Curtis stated, we have to have this turned into the Illinois Department of Revenue by April 1st. So we will have a special meeting on the 26th at 7 to pass the ordinance, and the ordinance dedicates that additional sales tax revenue to fund fire and police pension. So with that being said, we want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank the city council members that are here. It's been a long 2 weeks, and some of you have been to several meetings, and it just shows the way that the entire team has come together to work together on this project. So thank you, everyone.
Questions, comments? we're here to answer. We didn't answer a lot last night because the city council didn't get through a lot of our business, but all our other meetings are taken to make questions you want.
So you have a property, Kankakee address, Bourbonnais Township. Is that affected also?
Are you in the city of Kankakee?
Yes, that is.
If you're in the city of Kankakee, yes, we do have properties that are in Bourbonnais Township and Kankakee Township, but if it's in the city of Kankakee, that property will see the reduction. Any properties within the actual municipal boundaries.
Okay.
For people who are not able to see this presentation, is it online for them?
Nathan, right there with the hat on. Thank you, Nathan, for being here. Nathan has recorded this session, and it will be available on the library website. Ms. Burrell, you had a question?
Yes, will the ordinance be available to read prior to acceptance? Have you voted on?
There's a draft that's out there right now. I guess we would probably have it the end of this week. I don't know if it'll be available on Monday night. I assume council members will see it when it comes out of the package. Yeah. I know that's a big concern of everybody that we've talked to is, you know, it's almost, I call it skepticism that this is too good to be true, that you guys are going to collect an extra $7 million and you're just going to go spend it. That's the whole purpose of the ordinance, is the ordinance will dictate that this money happens. So that's what the aldermen and all the women will be looking at on Monday night and voting on.
What if it falls short? What if it falls short? In other words, you have a deficit somewhere else and you have a budget that doesn't balance. So it falls short. What are you going to do that year?
Okay. So right now, the goal is, that's why we looked at this originally at 1.75%. And as we said in our budget meeting, we all talked about it and said it's a tough pill to swallow, but let's go to 2%. It gives us that extra, if you notice, there was that extra 1.3 million going forward to keep this stabilized for several years to go forward. The reality is if, from what we're being told on the pensions, is about the next 5 years, there's expected to be some increases in draft, it should level out after 5 years. As long as that happens, this should be sustainable. If it continues to increase, and we'll just say every year it's going up $500,000 for the next 10 years, then you're right, it will be difficult. And what happens is we're going to keep that pension line item on your real estate tax bill and keep that at 0.0 for as long as possible. I hope it is 10 years. But if it's year 5 and we're short $100,000, we will have to levy for that pension because we're obligated to it. So your tax bill, instead of being 3.2, it potentially could go to 0.13 or something to make up that $100,000, whatever that number would be. But to answer your question, no matter what, we are by mandate have to have those numbers for the pension. So that's why we went to 2% to make sure this is sustainable for several years to come. And if we can raise our property tax values, as I mentioned before, if we can get that EAV from 204 back up to 290, that's a strong call. But even if we get it to 250, that's a big deal. That's extra money into the city of Kankakee's general operating fund.
What's the status of the gas station on East End, Rockets?
I've asked my engineer to touch base with them, and we're just waiting to hear back. The last word I had from them was they were planning construction this month.
That will bring in a lot of money.
Pardon me?
That will bring in a lot of money.
Going across my house.
What was the question?
The status of Ricky Rockets.
Rockets.
So the last time I spoke with the developer, they said March when the ground thawed. Today is the first day of spring. I don't believe that, but so we have a call into the developer at this time to see if we can get a more specific date.
Yeah, I specifically want to know is rental property included in this?
Any property that gets a tax bill in the city of Kankakee will have its pension line item be reverted down and included in this. That's rentals, that's industrial, that's commercial, that's homes, any physical. Quite frankly, it's land. Vacant land that doesn't have a building on it still has a pension line item on it. So it's any property in the city of Kankakee that gets a tax bill.
I'm curious, with that 2% increase, the state will still just require 5% of that, and the county also 0.25, that won't increase at all in either entity?
What we're doing, correct. We're just increasing for the city of Kankakee.
Okay.
The state will still get their 5%, and the county will still get their 0.25%. We're not taking money from anybody else.
But they're not gonna seek an increase, is my question.
Well, I don't know what the state.
State is a Springfield issue, and the county, if they want to do it, they would have to go to referendum. If you did remember, they did try to do that several years ago for police, I believe, yeah. But, again, we can't dictate what the county, state, other taxing bodies are going to do. All we can do is work with what we have on our 3 line items for the city of Kankakee.
Is there a plan, development for all the boarded homes in the city?
Not a specific plan at this time. Our CDA department is under reconstruction right now. We lost 3 of our 5 employees recently. And so we brought in a consultant to help us assess that department and what the needs are for the community and that sort of thing. Yes, sir.
To answer this gentleman, part of his question I have, though, by reducing this pension burden on the property tax, this should probably excel getting some of these boarded up homes to be purchased because the property tax would be cheaper. An investor might come in to purchase them, correct?
That's the goal. Okay. Absolutely. We'll take one more question. Ms. Moran.
I would suggest, previously, we've been tearing down houses. The cost to tear down a house, reduce the cost for that house, and it will probably sell faster.
I just say one thing. Just everybody, I think we should applaud everybody that has helped on this. The city, the alderman, the mayor, everybody that has done this. This is a great thing for the city, and I think this will be a good start to economic development in the city of Kankakee. So I think we should applaud them, stand up, and agree.
Detailed questions, come on up and ask us. We'll be happy to answer.
Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I inherited the family home, and I live in where they call White City. Ms. Armstrong lives in my neighborhood. My mother and dad, when the tax freeze came on, their taxes were frozen because they were that age. Now, 2 years ago when I lost my mother, her taxes were still frozen. This year, and in the last 6 years, our assessment for our home 6 years ago was 96 and 98,000. Last year it was 58. Now that I have to pay the taxes and I make an even $9,470 a year, my taxes for this year is going to be over $2,400 for 1 year.
That's why we're trying to give real relief back to property. We hear it over and over.
My home in this year.
This is why we think this is as I said before, it's not a perfect system. It's not going to help out 100% of people, but I think it's going to help out well over 95% of the people. Okay. Thank you, everyone.